take a few moments to reflect how you feel and how you can share this gift of forgiveness with others today and the days ahead. And when you're ready, open your eyes and smile.
Thank you, Jenny, for that beautiful meditation, as always. Good morning, everybody. I am up here. I'm going to tell you a little story, and it actually is a lead-in for Aubrey's talk today. So, it's called The Three Pearls of Wisdom. One rainy day, long ago, an old man was driving his wagon down a country road. The road was filled with potholes, so the drive was difficult, and the rain only made it worse. As the wagon plunged into a particularly deep hole, a rear wheel broke off. Calming his horse, the old man jumped down onto the muddy road and began to struggle with the wagon wheel. He soon realized that the hole was too deep and the wheel was too heavy for him to lift. As he stood there, wet and cold, he heard footsteps running toward him. A farm boy was on his way home to supper when he saw the old man's broken wagon with water flowing around it like a river. The boy was big, strong, and eager to help. Finding a fallen fence post, he stepped knee-deep into the muddy hole and propped up the wagon. Then he began fixing the wheel. While he worked, the boy spoke to the old man about his wishes for the future. He understood very little about the world, but wanted to learn. He wanted to discover who he was and to find answers to life's biggest mysteries. He was going to be a man soon and wanted to know more about love. He said he often daydreamed about the wonderful things yet to come. Most days, the boy laughed, I'm not sure if I'm dreaming or if I'm awake. The boy talked on, and the old man listened in silence. Within an hour, the job was done. The wheel was set securely in place, and the wagon was back on the road. The old man, filled with gratitude, searched through his pockets for a few coins. Finding nothing to offer the boy for his work, he asked him if he would accept 3 pearls of wisdom instead, assuring him that the pearls would provide more riches than any coins. As the sun pierced through rushing storm clouds, the boy smiled. He knew he could not refuse the man's gratitude, however it was offered. And after all, he had much to learn. Yes, answered the boy politely, I am truly honored that you would share your wisdom with me, sir. So the old man leaned toward him and began to speak. To find your way in this world, you need only answer 3 questions, the old man explained. First, you must ask yourself, who am I? You will know who you are when you see who you are not. Second, you must ask yourself, what is real? You will know what is real when you accept what is not real. Third, the man finished, you must ask yourself, what is love? You will know love when you realize what love is not. The old man straightened himself, brushing flecks of mud off his coat. The boy removed his hat respectfully and expressed his thanks. He watched the old man climb onto his wagon and whistle to his horse. The wagon lurched, shuddered, and then began to rattle down the road. As the boy turned toward home, where supper was waiting, he glanced back to see the back of the wagon disappear among the evening shadows.
Thank you, Dirk. Wisdom comes in many places. So the parable of the three pearls is a simple story, but with a profound architect to it. The story reflects the three vital lessons for our own spiritual walk. It begins with an act of kindness. A young man fixing an old man's wagon wheel without hesitation. As he worked, the young man shared his dreams, as we heard in the story, and the old man listened in silence. Also, the young man shared his dreams and thought of, when I get older, I want to be something. You could hear it in the story. So the second lesson in the story then is to be a good listener. Notice that the old man said nothing. He offered nothing. He was just silent. He listened. It's a quality Eric Butterworth often describes as listening with the heart to the divinity of another, just to be able to listen. And the third lesson was the lesson of humble gratitude. The man didn't have a coin to pay the young man, but he had the wisdom in his life to share in three simple sentences. So this story then reflects our own lives in many ways. A good story has the power to inspire, question, to encourage, and to have us look forward. Don Miguel Ruiz calls this the little government. And I thought, well, that's an odd statement, the little government. And it tasked us, though, with being better leaders of our own thoughts. So the mind as the little government, and task us to be better leaders of our own thoughts. He highlights that we can use our imagination for self-sabotage, or we can use it to dream a new peaceful life. Emily Keddy reminds us in Lessons of Truth, our ways of thinking make our happiness or unhappiness. If we want to change our lives, we must change the legislation of our minds. I just find it so interesting that we can go from something so current, or 2018, that's current, to something so old, and yet come up with if we want to change our lives, we must first change the legislation of our mind. I love that. I love the tie-in. I love the synchronicity. So as we look at these three pearls, we realize that life is eager. Life is eager. Our life is eager for a new conversation if we are willing to listen. The three questions in the three pearls provide a practical framework for anyone pursuing spiritual growth and self-knowledge. They act as a mirror, so helping us to see where we're living by false agreements and how to reclaim the personal power from this irrational fear that some of us may be carrying. Excuse me 1 second. And as we already know, we cannot give love to others that we do not possess for ourselves first. So life is eager then. It is so eager for us to have conversations, new conversations, if you are willing. So Pearl 1, the pearl of identity. Who am I? So this book argues that the me we operate from is often an imaginary character, a set of stories and social roles that we've adopted for ourselves. So we must distinguish between our authentic inner life force or the artificial identity, the little government. that we have created. To do that, we have to stop taking things personally. When we realize the me, in quotes, is largely a fabrication, we probably know who we are, right? I'm the smart one, I'm the introverted one, I'm the shy one, I'm the black sheep, I'm the goody two-shoes, and on and on and on it goes. Because this is what we've been programmed to believe from childhood on, and you go in kindergarten and your mother says, she's the shy one, she's the rebellious one, he's the this, he's the that. So it begins of the story of who we are. That's where it begins. So the question then, to revert it the other way, is who are you not? See, we pick up these labels that have been given to us throughout our life, and they say, this is just who I am. How many times have you said it? I've said it. This is me. This is my nature. This is who I am, right? So we own these solid opinions from others, and we just accept them as the fact, right? We may think that we're the weak one, and then what happens? A crisis happens, and we find out that we're really the strong one, right? And vice versa for that. Do we really know who we are? So we tell the story of who we are so many times that we actually believe this is the truth. This is me. This is who I am, right? But as the old man in the parable suggests, we're wise to take a look at what we are not. Now, if I were doing a workshop, which I want to do on this book, you guys, because it's amazing, I would say write down everything everybody's ever told you. And then we would share that. And then we would go through and say, let's cross out what's not the truth. I was always the shy one. Did you believe that I was introverted and shy? But that's what I was told, right? I was told I wasn't smart. One of the greatest stories in my life, and I'm going to share that with you, is about 15, 18 years ago, 20 years ago. So I did a neurological, psychological exam, which took a month. You went for 2 times a week, and you did all of these different testings and things, and then I believe it was a psychiatrist, then put this big report together, and then you met with them and went through this whole thing, and it was, math and vocabulary and logical thinking, emotional thinking, all of these things. And so maybe I was 60 years old. I don't know how old I was. And the psychiatrist was younger, much younger than me. And he said, I would like to tell you that when I'm your age, I would like to be as smart as you. And I sat there dumbfounded. And I said, I'm smart? He said, yeah, you're smart. You are so smart. So it took until I was 60 for somebody to tell me that I was smart. And that's what happens to us, because we carry these labels and we carry what we hear and we carry it with us and we believe it because we don't know any better. No one ever told me any better. Which is probably why my mother threw me in beauty school the day I graduated from high school, which is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a psychologist, but I wasn't smart enough to do that, right? So we tell the story so many times that we believe it, but we have to take a look at what we are not. And I am not stupid. I'm not introverted, and I'm not shy. So, would you guys agree with that? Yeah, right? You know me well enough. So, the Pearl 2 then, and see, there's so much. Oh my God, this book is so rich, so rich. The Pearl of Reality, what is real? You'll know what is real when you accept what is not. When you accept what is not. So, you grow up with what's your family's belief system, what their religion is, all in all, and that becomes your reality. So then in that reality becomes our fear, guilt, shame, jealousy, often based on illusions, not reality. We don't even grow up knowing what our reality is because somebody has planted their reality into us. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So many of our beliefs and our stories are inherited from others, right? So we're asked then to challenge our limiting beliefs and recognize that our perception is just one of billions of possibilities. Real stories, real reality involve present moment awareness, not reliving past dramas and imagining future fears. You know, I had an experience when I went to Florida last year. My friend Nancy, God love her, she's a bull in a china shop, always was and still is. And periodically through conversation, I would say something, I don't know, my brother-in-law said or my sister did or whatever. And she finally, because she is a bull in a china shop, she said, "What makes you think I want to keep hearing about the past?" And Nancy has that effect on me, right? And the tears are like hiding behind here, and she doesn't say anything more, and oops. Oh, Ben. Oh, Ben. He's only 2.5. By the time he's 3, this will be over. So, but anyhow, she's abrupt. She's horribly abrupt. She's been my friend for 40 years. The only reason we're still friends is because I back away and say nothing, because most people fight with her. But it was a good lesson, but I wasn't deliberately doing it. But see, we do that. We cling to the story. So it gave me a chance through the next trying 3 days with her to think about what I said before I said it. So sometimes our teachers can be abrupt, and Nancy is one of those people. So it is time then, and for me, it challenged my story. And I think she was a little too abrupt because it wasn't a deliberate, like I came here with drama and this is my past. But when our family and friends think they're being humorous, retelling a story about you the way you remember it, is it the way you felt? So there's something that happened at your 13th birthday, and it mortified you. But your friend or your cousin or your sister or your brother keeps telling this story over and over again, and everybody laughs and everybody thinks it's funny, but you're sitting back as a 13-year-old hurting in there. At some point, it is up to us to stand up and say, you know what, that's not the real true story. The true story was, I was so embarrassed, I was so mortified, I was so hurt. And people go, oh, we didn't know that. But if we allow people to keep telling our stories, they're our stories. You don't get to tell my story, I get to tell my story, right? It's our story, and we can tell it. So if someone keeps doing this in your family or your friends, and it's not intentional, nobody is trying to hurt you, nobody's being mean, they just thought it was this way, and it wasn't that way. So it's up to us not to allow others to speak for us, and no one should tell you how you felt about an event except you. You know, I have one person in my life that feels, and not to regress and go in the past, but how I should be feeling right now about the loss of Patrick. I should be over it. Well, nobody can tell you when you are going to be over something. You know, I think I'm doing amazing, but no one has the right. Somebody gave me, Annie's sister gave me a little card and it says, I will determine when I'm done mourning. And I have it on my desk. So this is where we have to be careful with people. You know, one of the things that came out, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago was like, thank you for sharing. And if you could say that without being arrogant, but thank you for sharing that, but I'm not doing that story, or I'm not having this conversation, or we are responsible for protecting ourselves. And I think that's where the story is going, right? Change your story for your own authentic truth. What is true for you now? Not what was true for you when you were 21 and 30 and 50. Well, some of you are younger than that, but you know what I mean. Okay? So Eric Butterworth, he challenges us in this, in discovering the power within. He says, we don't change what we are, we change what we think we are. So we have to change what that story was. Can you imagine if I went through my whole life being shy, introverted, and stupid? I'd still be doing hair, which I don't want to be doing. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. See, we have to understand that the me of me, is constantly changing. We are constantly changing, and we cannot be held hostage for what we said or did or what anybody perceived about us years ago. It's invalid now because it's over. And we grow, we learn. Each Sunday, I do literally pray that when you leave here, you've grabbed some type of a nugget that brings you through the week, and that might make this much of a change. And each week, things change, and you develop into this new being. So even from 1 week of being here, you're different than you were the last week that you were here, prayerfully. Because there's a law of life, and the law of life says we came here to create and never stop creating. Therefore, we're changing and we're changing and we're changing. You know, all of a sudden I'm going through my closet and I have what I call these dowdy church clothes, and I said, these things have to go. I'm not this dowdy minister anymore. So there's big bags of clothes lining up because I'm going to California. I'm going shopping. So anyhow, so the law of life says we are here to create and never stop creating. Transformation is life's chief characteristic. Listen to this. Transformation is life's chief characteristic. Life has no me. There's no me in quotes. There just is. And that makes life so much simpler and so easy. And then moving on to Pearl 3. Pearl 3 is the pearl of love. How do I express love? You will know love when you realize what love is not. That's going to be such a great chapter when we do that in this workshop, because we'll have a list, right, this long of what love is. Right? And then we'll sit and look at all of them and have conversations about it is, because you can't truly understand yourself until you're able to identify yourself as life, as energy, as this eternal force, this amazing being that you are. See, real love is unconditional, and people get so hung up on that word, unconditional love. It is an energy of life itself. That's what unconditional love. It's that energy of the purity of who and what you are. However, and we know this, love is often corrupted by conditions, expectations, selfishness. The highest form of love, the highest form of love begins with self-acceptance. Begins with self-acceptance, not trying to change oneself, but rather treating oneself with love and compassion. We did speak about that last week. Remember, we talked about looking into the mirror and loving what you see. For you guys, shaving, not avoiding your eyes, looking in. For ladies, putting your cream on your eyes, looking into the mirror, right? We have to be able to look at ourselves and say, yes, this is the purity of the universe, because I was created by this magnificent intelligence, which the wisest man in the world doesn't know what that is, no matter how they try to define it. The more you define it, the less it has meaning. But there is something so profound, and it begins with energy. And like all energy, then, love can be transformed but never destroyed, because energy can't be destroyed. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Okay, good. So the word So what do humans do, though? I will love you what? If, absolutely, if. So the word if denies the truth of love. The minute you add that word if in, love is gone. But embodying unconditional love is terrifying for some people because it requires the death of the ego's defenses and complete surrender to vulnerability. While it's often romanticized, the actual experience of moving into a state feels like the threat to our psychological and physical survival. So many people say, no, I can't do this. No, I'm sorry. Yes, you're a great person. You're a great man. You're a great woman. But no, I can't do this. Because you don't want the real self to be shown because you don't know who the real self is yet. And once you discover that real self, then you're so easily able to give and receive love. Unconditional love, by definition, has no boundaries, no judgments, right? And it includes everything, the hurt, the turbulence, and the joy, and the humor, and the harmony. So metaphysically, unconditional love is often described as this vibrational state of being because it's energy, right? Rather than a mere emotion or interpersonal feeling. It's considered the fundamental fabric of the universe. Love is the fundamental fabric of the universe, a constant underlying energy that remains unchanged regardless of the external circumstances. So unlike then ego-level love, which is tied to the physical world and fear of loss, unconditional love is viewed as soul-based energy. Think about that. We have a soul. The soul is inside. We have the soul-based energy that is infinite, and it's connected with the God principle or divine essence in others. Soul-based energy. We cannot give love to others if we do not possess it for ourselves first. What you are giving to others then is a fraction of who you really are. And there's so much more to every single being, right? We don't find love out there. We know the song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. It's not out there. It's not out there. You can't find a perfect partner, a perfect circumstance. You can't find anything you're looking for if you're looking out there. When you start to look within here, that's when you'll find what you're looking for. And as Emily Cady writes, all joy and strength and good spring up from a fountain from within one's own being. Springs up from a fountain within one's own being. And Butterworth Ayres says to that, never try to love. Just let love be love at the root of your being. Just let love be love. Just let it be love. So today, let us drop this imaginary me person and the inherited stories. Let us go to a silent place, that little government of the mind, right? And have it be still. And then listen for the spirit of truth as it can speak. When we know who we are not, I am not stupid, I am not shy, I am not introverted. When we know who we are, we finally discover who we are, an individualized center of God consciousness capable of radiating love with no conditions. That's who we are. Again, an individualized center of God consciousness, of the Christ consciousness, right? Capable of radiating a love that knows no condition. So as you leave here today, and as I close today, ask yourself this. What story am I willing to let go of? To let my true self